So thank you for the really candid discussion about that. I think it makes sense, and I think that just having the assurance that that's still present in everyone's mind is sufficient to me to not have that language in the master agreement.
Thank you.
The next section is a conflict of interest issue, but it also creates another issue that I didn't think about, or I have thought about, and that is, if we're going to have the athletic director not be a head coach, which I think is a reasonable thing, because that way he's not his own supervisor and so forth. I do think that compensation, because that would mean for Morgan that he'd be missing a part of salary that he has previously been, able to account on. So I think that raising the athletic director salary is a way to make that more palatable both to him and to the situation. But I think it's, I've talked to other areas where they, with their situations, and talking with Bobby Spencer too, that, that the idea is that there does seem to be a conflict of interest, particularly if there's multiple sports in season at the same time. So that's the purpose of that, is that we think it avoids conflict too, that separating those things would avoid a conflict of interest, but completely open to that line item being the athletic director salary being compensated.
One example of this, the athletic director, if I'm not mistaken, aren't they supposed to manage crowds at home events, usually?
Yeah, and I guess that varies from season to season, like what that looks like. I would say let's make sure we're cautious here as far as not talking like personnel type stuff.
Yeah, I know that. I'm just, so there, it'd be nice to make sure there's somebody there, and that's part of the reason this is in there, to make sure that, it's a lot for the coach to regulate kids and everything else. And this will help that. Does that make sense? According to if you actually read IHSAA rules.
So just to make sure that I'm trying to take a few notes here, just so I make sure, you want to have him removed at one of the positions. Is that right?
Not him. Athletic director should not be able to be a head coach.
But in our current situation,
right,
we do have that, so you would want that current person to be removed from one of their positions then? Is that?
I guess I'm not, you just finished saying let's not make it personal, and now you're making it personal, so I'm having a hard time with that. I'm saying that the position of athletic director has to be separate.
I guess I just don't want to do an evaluation here, is what I'm.
I'm not interested in evaluating.
That's what I'm avoiding. I just want to make sure that I understand what you're saying as far as like the
there's a problem, and in my understanding, in other districts, our situation's a rarity.
Of having an athletic director who's also a head coach, I think is not a very common thing. Okay. Because of this issue, because that it creates a conflict of interest. You're in charge of evaluating yourself. You're in charge of two things at one point, and that's an untenable position on the one hand. And again, it's not an issue of not wanting. If you are going to talk about it in a very personal sense, it's not wanting this person to lose money or to anything like that. Like, if you want to supplement the contract by raising it by 20%, I don't care. It's an issue of making it so that there's not that conflict of interest.
There also ends up reducing the pool of people we have available to choose coaches from.
I don't think that's a very, I think we could find a coach.
I've been informed multiple times that that they will find a coach for if positions are available.
It also could be, you may have to find a new athletic director, and that's, not a lot of people want to put that much time in to go to every home athletic event or whatever, because it's a very time-consuming position. Certain times of the year.
Well, if you increase the compensation for that position, that would sweeten the deal. But as is, coach and athletic director is a conflict of interest.
Yeah, or we could put it something, you know, if the person is the athletic director and coaching or something, I'm just thinking out loud here, I'm talking a bit about this, but then it would go to the principal or the superintendent to oversee it.
Yeah, let's talk about like in what, like is it the evaluation, is it money, where's the conflict? Let's talk about that and see if we could rectify that.
And that's what I'm wondering, is there a different way to mitigate that conflict of interest?
Right.
I don't know, this is a hard one. I mean, I think that if, you know, and I've seen it, and I've talked about this before, you know, you've got the issue of if you're athletic director and you're also coaching a head sport, you're a head coach of a sport, you as a coach should be looking out for the very best interest of your athletes and your team. And your job as the head coach is to recruit athletes, to try to get them into the sport, to try to get them doing it, committing to it. The leverage of that as the athletic director is, you know, is palpable. And having, you know, it's always going to be at the exclusion of another sport. So if you have, you know, sports competing for athletes, which we do throughout the year for different sports, then I think it creates a problem. You know, and then they're also competing for, you know, personnel at districts, personnel at state tournaments, these sort of things that we are unable to bring to the table if we have somebody who's doing those duties.
So what other avenues have we got to minimize that? Well, competition for limited resources. I mean, how else can we manage that? Other than taking a hard line in a master agreement like that.
I don't know, I'd have to give it some thought. I guess fundamentally, I guess I disagree that an athletic director has additional leverage over kids, more so than say just any other coach. I think that you're gonna have, I mean, I don't know why that would exist. Like, why would a kid recognize the AD versus just a coach? Like, I would think if I'm a kid, a coach would have more leverage over me than an AD, because it's like the next level, you know what I mean? I mean, I think you have the same situation as you would, say, in any other season, in two sports going at the same time. So I guess I don't necessarily see how an AD would have additional leverage. Now, if we were talking about, you know, if there was like a money discrepancy, if there was like things like that, then we need to look at that and do something. I agree with that.
I think, you know, I can understand what you're saying about leverage. I think there are some things that do factor in there, you know, particularly about, you know, talking to students about going on after high school and so forth. But I think there exists there does exist a conflict. If you're athletic director, your job is to try to populate everything and to promote all the sports equally. And if you're coaching a sport, you're not promoting all the sports equally. And, you know, telling kids, oh, you should do my sport, is by itself, that's part of what the conflict is.
I understand that. What can we do to make that situation better without removing somebody from their position?
I don't know. I don't know that, it's difficult.
Because that's really what we're doing. And we'd be looking for an AD.
You think we'd be looking for an AD instead of for a
Yeah,
softball coach?
we'd be looking for an AD, and that's really hard. And I don't know if that's in the best interest of the school. I'm not disagreeing with anything you're saying. I'm just saying,
Yeah,
like,
I know what you're.
what's the best situation for us?
I don't know that there's a way to ameliorate it. I mean, that's the problem. I think it's a pretty clear conflict of interest for the reasons we put forward. I don't know, you know, I know that we've got Rod, who holds a certification to be an AD, doesn't he?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
so
it's just,
we have people, I don't
I mean,
think,
coaches too, though.
yeah.
And I mean.
I mean, there's quite a staff of assistant coaches for softball out there. I mean,
Yeah, but
with all the,
that's not what we'd be looking for.
oh. But I'm saying, if you're talking about like making Rod AD, then there's the assistant coach position that you're looking at instead, and then you've got plenty of people to choose from there.
Yeah, that's assuming he would even be interested.
Right, no, I understand. I understand.
He wouldn't.
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. I just don't know. I mean, it's a problem, and it's been a problem.
All I can do with the current state is meet with the AD and try to alleviate some of those things that you're talking about. I mean, that's all I can do right now.
Yeah.
It's gonna be hard for us to agree to put in this language in the master agreement. Yes. I don't see us doing that.
I have an issue if I step in these restroom also.
We can take a pause. if
Yeah,
you'd like.
we can recess.
I'll take that. If you just don't.